watching We All Be News Radio, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. I'm Thaddeus Matthews.
Hold on like you promised to and keep the faith and let your love grow stronger. Hold on like I'll be coming back to you. Oh, we all be coming back to you. Welcome, family, to the wonderful, entertaining, edutaining edition of We All Be TV, radio, news free Dixie for the 21st century. I hope everybody's doing fine out there in real world land. It's getting real crazy, getting real matrixy out here. Matrixy out here is getting real like that. Got a great one for you tonight. Somewhat troubling, somewhat a little bit uncomfortable, but if you want to grow, you got to put yourself in very uncomfortable situations if you want to change what you've been going through. If you want something different, you need to try something new. And had a Jegna once tell me the only way you can fail at anything is if you stop trying. That's the only way you can fail. Keep on trying. And when you keep on trying, eventually you will do. So I just want to check everything, see everything's fine. With the sound, trying something new for the moment. Adjust my microphone. I hope everybody's doing all right. Got I think a very good one for you tonight. I hope everybody's doing all right. Okay, sounds good. So tonight's topic is, of course, about Bobby Collins. As you who are followers of We All Be, I normally will reference him from time to time. This situation, very unfortunate situation he finds himself in, even at the current moment. It's like a cautionary tale. But my thing is this. Like I said, I'm gonna slow down on doing a lot of interviews right now. Don't really feel like doing a lot of interviews. People send me folks I should interview. I'm not interested because I've been getting stories that need to be told. Stories like Bobby Collins' story. Other stories out there. I've been getting an amazing amount of information about a lot of this marginalized stories, not well-known stories that are covered up for very obvious reasons. And I'm gonna be doing a lot of that, dedicate the next few weeks on this platform to exposing those type of stories so it can start generating content on the internet. I had a friend pass away on Saturday. Memphis music, a certifiable Memphis music legend. His name was Brother Howard Grimes. Howard Grimes was a phenomenal talent, was known as the Memphis Bulldog because the way he approached the drum, very tenacious, very consistent, very individualistic, but also a team player who finally got his due right before he passed away. I believe he was either 80 or 81 years young. So he was right on his Uranus return, about to get his just due, his just recognition. Howard Grimes is a very important musician. He was actually the first drummer at Stax. Before it was called Stax, it was known as Satellite Records. He was the first drummer, their first drummer, right? And he was like 11 or 12 years old. He was a professional musician at 11 and 12 years old, starting out. He played for all the greats, a lot of the greats that you appreciate. For example, he was a pivotal musician in the Al Green discography. I think he played on about 10 of Al Green's albums. Al Green is one of the greatest soul singers to ever touch a microphone, to ever grace the planet. But Howard Grimes was his key drummer, a lot of his key signature classic hits. Also, he was the drummer on Ann Peoples' I Can't Stand the Rain. It's my way. I can't stand the rain. He was the drummer on that. He played for O.V. Wright, Otis Clay, Marvin Gaye, a lot of the greats, man. And so he will be missed. He was a phenomenal storyteller, but he was an honest guy, had a great character, had a lot of integrity, and he told it like it was. Matter of fact, he was still living on the same street as which is now known as the Stax Museum. You know, the Stax Museum was built on the location of the Stax Studios. He lived not that far away on Macklemore on the same street of Stax. All that history in one neighborhood. You know, Aretha Franklin was born in Soulsville. That neighborhood is known as Soulsville for obvious reasons. Aretha Franklin was born there. The late great Johnny Ace, arguably the first rock and roll star. His family home where he was raised is still in Soulsville. He is the grandfather of the one and only Legacy, the great neo soul singer who recently just won her first Grammy. That's his granddaughter. So he had Memphis Slim, used to live in Soulsville. Actually, the first all black Cast Hollywood talkie was filmed in Soulsville. It was known as Hallelujah. It introduced the world to Hollywood's first black sex symbol, Nina Mae McKinney, who was not even 20 years old at the time. Maybe she was like 16 or 17, but she was Hollywood's first black sex symbol. And she starred in that movie. It was filmed in that Memphis neighborhood of Soulsville. The director, King Vidor, or Vidor, whatever you want to call him, who was from Galveston, Texas, a white man. He was actually nominated for an Oscar for Best Director for the first Hollywood all-black talkie, Hallelujah. Do yourself a favor, look that up in the Internet Archives, wherever. It's a movie that's well worth watching. It's a very entertaining movie. And look up Nina Mae McKinney, because, you know, we got to start telling our stories, man, because they got y'all thinking that Sidney Poitier was the first black movie star, and y'all go along with it without question. And he was not the first black movie star. That's an insult to Lena Horne, Paul Robeson, even Stephen Fetchit, Hattie McDaniels, Louis Beavers. That's an insult. So I remember I talked to Bill Cosby this past summer. Right? We had the Cosby Show. Shout out to the folks who gave critical, substantive feedback on that podcast. And I remember talking to Bill this summer, and he was saying how we got to be the stewards of our history, of our stories. We got to tell our stories, because once we get to Hollywood, we're not even a contributing factor in the telling of our own narratives. So it's an imperative that black folks start telling their stories. And you don't have to have $100 million budget to tell your story. You can make movies on your phone now. High quality film footage and iPhones. You get high quality film footage. It's all types of apps that can help you make a award-winning movie. I challenge everybody out there: tell your story, stick to your narrative, stick to your guns, stick to your truths, and tell them, make them plain, and amplify them by any means necessary. So that's very important. So this is why I'm here tonight. I wanted to tell this story for a while. This has been on my mind ever since I found out what happened to Bobby. Bobby got into some serious trouble with the law a couple of times. He's currently doing 525 years in prison. And maybe he's been in prison for almost 20 years now at this point. But, you know, he still got 500 and some change to go. And the reason why I think this show is important to do is because people talk about the just us system. People talking about justice. What does justice look like? What does fairness look like in this system of ours? Who decides to play the role of execution? I mean, like, you know, we're gonna get into this story, but yeah, football. I know everybody saw the Super Bowl. A lot of people watched the Super Bowl, and people got, you know, takes on the halftime show with Snoop. You know, 50. I don't understand the 50 thing, because 50, he is bigger, but he's not like fat. You know what I'm saying? He's thicker. And I don't know too many people that could hang upside down like that. And he was still able to help his breath control. So he's in better shape than a lot of folks who's been criticizing him. And 50, he fat in the bank account too. He got really fat bank account. Man, I had no problem with that, but I actually thought that was like one of the best halftime shows I ever saw. It's in my top 5 easily, but Michael Jackson definitely set the bar for the halftime show. But black culture always been part of the halftime show. You even go back to the first Super Bowl. I think it was Grambling State that played the first Super Bowl. Let me make sure, because y'all be, a black man get one thing wrong, y'all be in his, you know, assets. Played the first halftime. What they call them? Smartphones. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna make sure. The first Super Bowl halftime performance in 1967 featured performances by the University of Arizona Symphonic Marching Band, the Grambling State University Marching Band, A.L.L, and the Anaheim High School High Steppers drill team and flag girls. Okay, so Grambling State with their Black History always being made. Black History or Black Future Month is really all day, every day, 365, 24/7. 24/7. So you always had Black people a part of Super Bowl halftime entertainment. So, and also as an insult to Big Boy, because did not Big Boy perform in the halftime show when they headed down to ATL a couple years back? So I mean, we got really a short-term memory, and then people talk about well, Snoop wearing he wasn't really representing the Rams with his outfit, he was representing the Crips. And people thought that was an insult. But here's the thing: American History is a gangster rap album. American History is a gangster rap album. It's all about violence and misogyny and all types of nihilistic, this sadism. That's American history. And you got to understand that government creates gangs. Government creates gangs. Government policy creates gangs. Government creates ghettos. They create projects. Why did they call the project a project? It's a social experiment. It's a social lab. I remember in Memphis, we had our first Black elected mayor, Mayor Harrington, decided to knock down the projects and move the Black folks who've been living generations in the projects out east to the, to suburbia. Now, what's interesting is the place where they knocked down the projects, they immediately built luxurious apartments and homes and all that stuff, condominiums. And then the place that was a nice suburban area became the hood, high crime. See, the thing about it is your mentality creates your reality. You manifest your reality. You're not a product of your environment. You're a product of your mind. You're a product of your mind. So, I mean, like, if you're not deprogramming and rehabbing people world's view and how they view themselves in relation to the world and how to, and working on their mental, everywhere they go, they'll create a ghetto. Everywhere they go is be the projects. So how is it that last year this was Section 8, then it turned into condominiums this year? I mean, I'm experiencing this right now. If you live anywhere in urban America, like places where Black folks used to live, neighborhoods are now luxurious apartments, or they're building stadiums. Think about that $5 billion stadium they built out in L.A. And then a couple years ago, they killed Nipsey Hussle. Just a couple years ago, not that far away from that stadium. Land grab. $5 billion stadium where you got all the homeless folks on Skid Row in L.A. Y'all care more about kids game, foosball, than helping the poor. I know I was listening to Shannon Sharp on Skip and Shannon show, whatever, Undisputed, whatever they call it. It's a good show. And Shannon was talking about how the parking tickets were like, buy a parking ticket was like $5,000. They were actually selling parking spaces for $5,000 during the Super Bowl. And he was talking about when he played in the Super Bowl, you could get a Super Bowl ticket for like $325. Now it costs thousands of dollars to get a Super Bowl ticket. And he was talking about how his friend took his son to the Super Bowl this year, and it easily cost them almost $30,000. So they paid a salary for some people just to go to the Super Bowl. This is how screwed up America is, where people glamorize the billionaires like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Elon Musk get all types of money from the government to do all his little fun shenanigans. They want to bust people for welfare fraud, for stealing a couple of food stamps, couple $1,000. These corporations like Elon Musk and all them, they getting billions of dollars from the government, don't have to pay them back. but they sending people to jail for decades doing football numbers for PPP loan scams or whatever. But I mean, don't understand. This is why we're talking about what we're talking about tonight. Now, Bobby, he's doing 525 years in prison, but he ain't killed nobody. You got folks that have killed people, multiple people, never did any time in jail. Or if they do time in jail, they get out less than 10 years, less than 5 years, less than 3 years. You remember that case? I'm not gonna look this up because I'm just tired of looking. Y'all can look it up because I know people always trying to catch a black man misleading y'all in a lie. Y'all, that's one of America's favorite pastime. Let's catch a black man in a lie. Let's discredit the black man if you get one thing wrong, one date off, one number off. But that white boy, the wealthy white boy who ran over all them people on the road, killed a whole bunch of people. And then the lawyer made a case that he had something like affluenza, that he was so wealthy that he was disconnected from society. He was disconnected from reality. You could be so wealthy and so insulated that you don't understand this normal social norms. And after these last 2 years, I don't know what social norms are anymore. I really don't. Because things that would normally be called child abuse is called liberation. Oh yeah, man, let them choose what they want to be. And hey, I know he's a boy, but put this on him. You know, people confused, and this is the last days of the Roman Empire. The Rome is burning. Gonorrhea burning, and all types of other burning. But people are so disconnected now. They try to make a metaverse. You know, people can't even talk to people regularly. Like, people don't know how to do the art of small talk. It's even hard just to try to get to know the opposite sex, because like they be weird, you know, men and women. You know, like I go on a dating app, you ask somebody how they doing, and all this. They say, you asking too many questions. Slow down, Captain. Hold on. I'm just asking you how you doing. Then, like, you know, you don't talk that much. And then they're like, why you not talking? I said, well, I'm confused. Like, if I ask you how you doing, I'm saying too much. It's too much information. I don't know. But this is a world that we live in. So Bobby didn't kill nobody, but I think what it was is that, you know, we'll talk about it. But I mean, that's about the Super Bowl, right? Yeah, the halftime show was good. I thought it was one of the best I ever seen. You know, people trying to talk about Eminem. Was he kneeling for Kaepernick? Was he kneeling for Tupac? I said, who cares? Y'all like Eminem supposed to be John Brown. Eminem, a white boy who know how to rap. Like I say, I'll make a case that even Lil Wayne is more influential than Eminem. Eminem is popular. Yeah, he's talented, but how many acolytes, how many Eminem acolytes are out there? You can make the case for the current, mumble rap and all this other stuff that comes out of Lil Wayne. He's the father of the modern rapper, not no Eminem. Lil Wayne's brilliant, man. I just like I don't think on Valentine's Day, I said if I had a time machine, I would go back in the past, forget about the future, go back in the past, and I have my theme song be Lil Wayne's Every Girl. And if people don't know what that song's about, you could Google it up, Spotify, streaming, Apple, whatever streaming platform, music streaming platform you use, stream Lil Wayne's Every Girl. That'll be my thing. Because when you're in a certain season in your life, you're like, oh, it's a drought. But it wasn't a drought back then. I had options, and I just didn't exercise my options. So that's on me. But anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about Bobby. Oh yeah, before I get too far along, let's touch on Super Bowl, because I don't do a lot of shows. I see a lot of y'all be jumping on and want to comment on everything. I don't got the energy. It's like folks that claim that they so busy and successful, they stay on YouTube and on live or whatever, just talking and I don't see how they do it, because this was a game time decision to even do a show tonight, because I just be so like, I'm going through some stuff. I might talk about that in another show, and I will touch on that because I think it helps people, because I get a lot of positive feedback from people that said that when they hear me talk about my life struggles and all this other stuff, it makes them inspired to take more control of their own narrative and to be more positive towards themselves, because self-care is the best healthcare. You got to take care of yourself before you take care of anybody else, because you won't be around to help anybody if you can't help yourself, maintain some health. So Couple man Super Bowl. Super Bowl was rigged, right? Y'all know this stuff is fixed, right? Y'all should have known when The Rock introduced the Super Bowl that the Super Bowl is fixed. The Super Bowl or NFL is closer to wrestling than anything else. It's theater, it's drama, it's art. It's not as it's you got skilled competitors, but when I say it's rigged, I'm not necessarily saying that it's the players in on it. I'm not saying that like in basketball they point shaving. I'm saying you remember a couple years back when that NBA referee was Tim Donahue. I don't know his name. I guess his name Tim Donahue. He talked about how they was fixing games because a lot of players were complaining about how the refs were calling games. Like some of the big time players like Tim Duncan, they were complaining about how refs were calling the basketball games. Come to find out they were controlling the games and fixing them spreads for gambling for Vegas and stuff like that. So if you saw the Super Bowl on Sunday, you saw that no call on the face mask grab, which should have been called, where it led to Cincinnati Bengals scoring a touchdown. Like Higgins, like the wide receiver named Higgins, grabbed Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks, on his face mask and turned his head around, then caught the ball and ran for a touchdown. Now the officials claim, or the Zebras claim they didn't catch that, but the whole world saw it on replay. And there's no way they could have justified the Bengals actually winning the Super Bowl after they blew that call. Or did they really blow that call? But you see towards the end, for the most part, they let them play throughout the whole game, right? Then towards like the last 2 or 3 minutes, they started calling everything. They got to make it look good. See, officials, they control the flow. They control the flow of the game. So they control how many points I really scored. They could mess with the one team's momentum. Because they're controlling it. They could call timeouts, they could do a review and all this stuff. It messes with the momentum and all that stuff, but they control the flow. So, getting back to Snoop thing about the Crip thing, the government created the Crips. The government created it. The government created the mafia because they passed this thing called prohibition. It allowed for organized crime to get organized. And really the biggest organized crime people are in law enforcement. Law enforcement is real organized crime. Government is real organized crime. That's why I think it's funny when people talk about, the Kennedy assassination, they all talking about the mafia. The mafia is not bigger than the government. Even when you look at Italy, when Mussolini came to power, the mafia was afraid of Mussolini. And they're supposed to have been in existence for centuries, but Mussolini was government. He was backed by some powerful people like Hitler. So, y'all get it twisted. Mafia at best is like they Lagoon Squad for the CIA, or they was back in the day anyway. They hired assassins and all that stuff. But anyway, I digress. But if you think about in Chicago, where Fred Hampton was killed, Fred Hampton was actually influencing Jeff Ford and people like that and Larry Hoover. All them guys are a threat because they organize people and they get folks to do things like, say, voting in large numbers. Jeff Ford was invited to the White House for helping Nixon win Chicago and Illinois. As you all know, back in 1960, it was Sam Giancana and the Chicago outfit that gave Kennedy Illinois when it should have been to Nixon. I think Nixon learned his lesson, and they got Jeff Ford of the Black Stone Rangers, the L. Ruckins now, whatever, to swing the votes in Chicago his way. They say that even Jeff Ford got an invite to the White House to celebrate with Nixon. Who knows? Eazy-E met with President George Bush in the White House, and several years later, he did. And that's another story. But the government creates gangs. I keep on thinking that y'all talking about Raymond Washington and Tookie Williams, but it's because they killed people like Bunchy Carter off and the Fred Hamptons that led to this, that documentary that Claiborne Sloan did called Bastards of the Party. How the street gangs of L.A. happened because of COINTELPRO, because of what the government did to kill Bunchy Carter, to imprison Geronimo Pratt, who was Tupac's godfather, and a lot of other things, shenanigans. So y'all put too much blame on ourselves. Black folks so quick to blame ourselves. It's like with the crack epidemic. The government put that in the neighborhood. It's been proven. Gary Webb, Dark Alliance Webb series is still out there to talk about that. And they suicided Gary Webb back in 2004. He got shot. He shot himself in the head 2 times, but or something like that. But what I'm saying is, because we are not scholars, for the most part, a lot of us are not students of history. We're not stewards of our story. You keep on thinking that Black folks is just evil, pure evil, when it's the government that a lot of us serve as far as military, and some of the best soldiers were black people and still are. We pay taxes to a government that disrespects our humanity, that thinks it's right to keep what is due to us as far as so-called black people, our reparations. Every group in this country getting reparations. Gay people getting reparations now. Japanese got reparations. Jews, Indians, white folks who own slaves after the Civil War got reparations. Everybody gets reparations. When they, back in the day when you used to lynch foreigners that came to America, the United States government used to pay restitution, reparations to the foreigners' country of origin. So we are the ones that are the big fools, and they keep on telling us to vote a certain way every year because we don't vote for them, you ain't black. Now, if you vote for them, you a slave. You a plantation slave. That's what you are. So you blackety black slave, and you should be married. You should be making your slave marriages on your smartphone. So, okay, enough of that. Let's talk about Bobby. I think I was being patient. I'm just warming up. It's been a long time. Something like that. Try to make sure I don't talk too fast. I know I talk fast, and slow it down, make it plain for the people. But I also know that, like I said, I'm not feeling interviewing right now. Y'all go somewhere else and listen to so and so's and so and so's. And some of them got their own platforms. You listen to them on their platform. I'm just trying to get my life situated this first half of the year, man. It's like month number 2. I'm just trying to get my health right and my mind right for what I know I got to do. I know I got to do some things, but it's crazy out here. Y'all be careful. It's just so much just foolery going around, shenanigans and things of that nature. This is my classmate from college, from Washington University in St. Louis. His name is Bobby Collins Jr. Bobby was an interesting dude. On the left, that's this picture, his mugshot from 2005 on the left. I guess it's to my left. Oh, I don't know. Hell, the one closest to me, you see me in the picture talking, hey, everybody, that's him from 2005. That's his mugshot from 2005. The one on the right is his mugshot, his most recent one from 2020. So Bobby seemed like he'd been taking good care of himself. He'd been working out in prison, even though he was given 525 years to be in prison. And he's based on year number 20 almost, something like that. And he still got 505 more years to go. But I'm going to say, is that fair? Was he treated fairly by the process? If you think about people like the truck driver, that trucker who couldn't stop, he said his brakes went out in Colorado and killed all them people. And people say he could have easily slowed down and went to an off ramp or something. And people was like, man, it's an injustice. He got 110 years in prison. He actually killed a whole bunch of people. And he had Kim Kardashian and all them get into it. Let the trucker go. So they reduced the sentence, right? Because he was facing 110 years. And the dude kind of smug, from my understanding. He thought he was going to get nothing. And he was married with wife and children or kid or child, whatever. But he got 110 years and he killed people. It could have been negligence he did, because like people were saying, he could have did certain things to stop that tragedy from happening. And folks were like mad about him getting 110 years. But what about a guy who didn't kill anybody? He got 525 years. And I'm not saying, and what he's been found guilty of doing, I do not condone. Best believe that. Understand? Like, I know y'all think a lot of y'all don't understand how you could defend Cosby and how you could defend OJ, because OJ didn't do it and they didn't prove Cosby raped anybody. It was not proven by the so-called accusers that he did anything wrong. It was not proven. The court ruling is illegitimate. It was unethical. It was proven by the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court that it should never happen, because they questioned the DA decision in calling these so-called character witnesses. I saw the appeal hearing back in December of 2020 when they were questioning the DA's so-called wisdom in calling these women to testify against Cosby because they had no evidence. People don't even understand that the police actually investigated Cosby after Andrea Constand's accusation. They couldn't find anything. It's like people forget that law enforcement, especially the FBI, went to Neverland Ranch and couldn't find nothing on Michael Jackson. Tom Snyder had a hard on. The DA down there had a hard on for Michael Jackson. They couldn't find nothing. And these are the same folks that helped produce the gun that killed Dr. King. I don't know what that's about. Okay, you tell me. But this is Bobby Collins. You know, good-looking guy, handsome, charismatic guy. But he was accused of home invasion and rape back in 2002. It's an incident that happened March 17th, 2002. A home invasion and rape. And they say he did a couple other things, a couple other crimes as well. But here's the thing. Bobby Collins was a football star at one of the top colleges in the whole country, in the world. You know, Washington University in St. Louis is an Ivy League school. Washington University is a prestigious school. Herbert Walker, who's connected to the Bush family. I think George H.W. Bush's grandfather was a graduate of Washington University in St. Louis. He helped finance the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis. And so the Bush family got strong ties to St. Louis via Washington University in St. Louis. You always see when they held presidential, campaign years, a lot of times one of the debate sites, whether it be for vice president or for president, would be held at Washington University in St. Louis. I was there back in 2000 when they held the presidential debates against Al Gore against George W. Bush. I was on campus, Secret Service. It was crazy. It's pandemonium, right? It was crazy, but they was there on campus. Back in 2016, Trump and Hillary debated also at Washington University in St. Louis. So this is a prestigious school. And in some way, I was able to get in. But Bobby was there too. Bobby was a non-traditional student. He was actually more closer to 30, whereas I was closer to 20. He was closer to 30 because he was a non-traditional student. But he excelled on the gridiron and on the baseball diamond. He was a very gifted athlete, and he actually set the freshman rushing record. He rushed for 1,000 yards his quote unquote freshman year back in 2001, and so he was a award-winning athlete. Got a lot of notoriety, well respected. When I first met Bobby, it was like a Thursday night. They had a thing called Jazz at Holmes Lounge on the main campus where several Thursday nights after semester, they'll have local jazz musicians play for the students while we study. And I had a friend, she was like one of the people that helped facilitate that event. She was she's a doctor now, beautiful sister, beautiful, gorgeous woman, brilliant, kind-hearted, but she good people. But she introduced me to a friend, Bobby. When I first met Bobby was very charismatic. He was a good-looking guy, charismatic, congealed, had a great personality, as far as I knew. He was the type of dude that men wanted to be like and women wanted to be with. Once again, let me repeat, he was the type of guy that men wanted to be like and women wanted to be with. He had a lot of swag and confidence in himself. But he was, a cool cat, man. He was laid back to me. He was cool. Very personable. The next time I saw Bobby, it was the next time I seen him on campus, because he was around. He's a man, big man on campus. They did an article on him in the student newspaper. They spoke about how mature and responsible he was because he was a full-time student. He was going to the night college, full-time student. And also he was an apprentice plumber to his uncle. So he was working for his uncle as an apprentice plumber, had a full-time job, and yet going to school at night. And it's like he was making the grade. And also a very impressive athlete. He was a student athlete. It's like he had his life together. He had everything lined up. Now, the last time I saw Bobby before, my last time was seeing Bobby back in spring semester of 2002. Towards the end of the spring semester, right before I graduated, I was at the Hilltop Bakery on campus. And I was talking to this fellow female student. And Bobby was there, I think, with some people. He had a little small entourage, I believe. But Bobby was like different from my other encounters with Bobby. Bobby was very aggressive acting, kind of a little bit more edgier, kind of dark sense of humor type of thing going on, because the girl I was talking to, she felt uncomfortable around Bob because he was making advances on her and he was calling out her name and joking on her. And I ain't, I'm 22 years old. I'm not thinking that, Bobby's really, I think he just joking around with her, but she's taking it she's uncomfortable. And I think she ended up leaving. And that was the last time I saw Bobby. That was the last time I saw Bobby. And it was weird because I said, that's not the Bobby that I know. I don't recognize that guy, that Bobby Collins Jr. I don't know who that guy is, but it didn't really make sense to me until about 3 years later, almost. Well, I read the student newspaper online. It says former WashU student and football star sentenced to 540 years in prison. And it had his picture like OJ style from '94. I think what Newsweek or somebody put OJ face on the front of their cover, and they manipulated how the picture looked to make it look more sinister. So that's what I immediately thought about. I said, damn, they OJ Bobby, man. His face all on the front page, and it's hard to find that exact article online. There's a lot of stuff is hidden about this case. And this is why I'm doing the show, to bring some light to what, the alleged allegations led to his conviction. I guess he's guilty, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? Cause the reason why I want to talk about this is because he was in a very unique situation before he got into all this trouble. Cause he's like led a troubled life for most of his young adult life. He had a troubled life, but he's like he was a good person. I think everybody got a good and bad side, a light and dark side. But yeah, 540 years in prison. Now the article was dated January 31st, 2005. So actually they reduced it to 525. In the courtroom, the judge said 480 years. Then on the paper, it was 510 years. And then it went to 540 years. And then now it's 525 years. But I want to read these articles, some of these articles. And also I want to read parts of his appeal. He appealed the decision for how many years he was facing. But the appeal story is a little bit more graphic than the articles. It's really graphic, but I'm going to have to put this out for record because I want people to know this story. And this could be a cautionary tale, but also it should be a look at, is the just us system really working for us? Did he really get a fair hearing? Was his sentence fair? If you think about you think about Ahmaud Arbery, them white guys killed that man, and they deserve to spend a whole lot of time in prison. They actually hunted this man down and killed him, and they admitted to it in so many ways in court. And yet the system's still trying to get them out. They still trying to find a way for them to get a loophole to get out. You look at the Botham Jean situation, where he was killed in his home by the white lady, Amber Geiger, I think that's her name. And then his family insult to his name and to his grave, hugging him or hugging her. His brother hugged the woman, try to feel on her, I guess. I don't know. Judge hugged her. Father said he want to, pray for her, to be a Christian and like to meet her one day, some weird stuff. And then the dude that came forward to testify against the woman, the judge just belittled and he lost his life. And nobody talks about this brother no more. The brother who did a profiles in courage and testified at the trial and told the truth, and they killed them and act like it was some just a drug deal gone bad. Right. And this is wrong with black people. We know we go hard for celebrities. We care about Nick Cannon, how many people he's growing, and if he wearing a condom or not. We care about Rihanna's baby bump or baby hump. We care about everything but the right thing. There's nothing wrong with having a good time, but it's a time and place for everything. That's biblical. So what I'm saying is, it's very important to talk about these type of cases. And Bobby is still around. Bobby is still a young man. He's in his 40s. He's a Taurus like me. I think that's why we got along the first time. But let me get through this because I want to keep this show about 2 hours. Let me see. And thank y'all for listening and being patient. We love you madly. But let's put the focus on Bobby. All eyes on Bobby Collins. All eyes on Bobby. Okay, read this article. WashU dropout sentenced to 540 years. And this is from the Student Life Archives of Washington University in St. Louis. Former Washington University student and football star Bobby Collins Jr. was sentenced to 540 years in prison Friday after being convicted on 20 felony charges last month, including forcible rape and armed robbery. On the morning of March 17, 2002, between 4 and 5 a.m., Collins broke into the home of a St. Louis woman he did not know. He proceeded to tie her up at gunpoint, then violently beat and sexually assaulted her for 30 to 90 minutes. Collins was arrested for this attack in August of 2003 in St. Louis after DNA samples Collins gave during an investigation for a separate robbery he committed matched those taken from the victim. In the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, Circuit Judge Margaret Neal, who presided over the trial, called the attack the most heinous that I have seen during my 12 years on the bench. Heinous crimes deserve harsh punishment. Collins was attending Washington University at the time of the crime. He was enrolled in University College from the spring of 2001 through the spring of 2002, when he was suspended for academic reasons. The dean of University College, Robert Wittenberg, was unavailable for comment Friday, although University College Registrar Maria Hunter said Friday that she had no information regarding Collins. While pursuing a psychology degree at night as a 27-year-old non-traditional student, Collins worked for his uncle as a plumber during the day and played football and baseball for the Bears. It was his football prowess for which he was most known. As a tailback for the Bears during the 2001 season, Collins broke the rookie rushing record by rushing 1,015 yards and scoring 7 touchdowns. His exceptional performance on the football field earned him the University Athletic Association's Offensive Player of the Year. With his unusually busy schedule and excellence on the football field, Collins was respected as a model for everyone. People say you can't get a Washington University degree, you can't work full-time, play football, and go to school, said head football coach Larry Kimball in an interview in the Record on December 2001 before Collins' arrest. All of us have that drive inside, but most of us don't get there. Bobby Collins is one of a few, and I think that really speaks to his maturity and perseverance. Kinbone could not be reached for comment about Collins' sentencing. Despite these accolades bestowed upon him by the university community, Collins had a criminal past dating back before his time at the university. Collins spent about 3 years in a Denver prison on a crack cocaine distribution conviction. Although this sentence was half of what is usually suggested by federal sentencing guidelines, because Collins became a cooperating witness or informant for the FBI. Y'all hear what I just said? He was an FBI informant. In addition to his 540-year sentence, Collins faces several counts in a separate robbery case dating from July 2002 and charges of robbery and sexual assault in a Denver case after his DNA allegedly matched a sample taken in that case. So that's one version, right? I think that's important. So he was an informant, the FBI informant. That explains how he was able to get into WashU, right? I mean, his background was hidden, covered up, whitewashed, I guess, because of his service to the government. So I got this guy, like I said, this guy was a non-traditional student. He was closer to 30 than he was to 20. But he got a second chance. You know, the government gave him a second chance. Normally we get federal sentence, you got to do most of that time, but he only did half of that time because he was cooperating witness for the FBI. So he sent some folks to prison. I guess he sent some high value folks to prison. And he got rewarded for it. And he's originally from St. Louis. And the thing about it is, maybe they just threw the book at him. I wonder, somebody brought up a good point to me when I was discussing this case. What happened to him those 3 years in prison, though? Although he got a break, was he broken in prison? You know what I'm saying? Did they break him in prison? You understand, psychologically, for him to do what he ended up being accused of and convicted of allegedly doing? That's what I want to know, because maybe he's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. You know, because like when I first met Bobby, I didn't see this type of dark side to Bobby. I had no clue. It was a shock. It's like when you a neighbor and they say, well, your next door neighbor is Jeffrey Dahmer or John Wayne Gacy. I didn't know they was nice guys. I didn't know nothing. I remember I heard talk to people that used to hang out with Jeffrey Dahmer in Milwaukee. Like this friend of mine, said one of her girlfriends, they used to work with Jeffrey Dahmer at the chocolate factory. And he used to go over his house for happy hour. I said, they ain't smell no weird smells. I said, no, they used to hang out. Jeffrey Dahmer loved to eat black folks and dine with black folks. I can't make this stuff up. But anyway, he didn't even kill nobody, though. See, the thing about it, he got all that time, didn't even kill nobody. He didn't kill nobody, but I'm going to read another article from WashU that came out like almost 2 years before that article. This actually came out in 2003 in the Student Life newspaper. He got arrested back in 2003, and he was sentenced back in January 2005 to 540 years in prison, but they got it down to 525. When I look at the database, when I was looking up his information online, the Missouri database, it said 525 years in prison, but that's still long. Why not just say life? Okay. So I'm going to read this article from August 27, 2003. Former WashU student, football star arrested on rape charges. Bobby Collins Jr., 29, was arrested Friday by St. Louis Metropolitan Police on 20 felony charges, including 2 counts of forcible rape. The charges originated with an indictment handed down by a grand jury June the 30th in the 22nd Judicial Circuit Court of Missouri. The indictment charges that on the morning of March 17, 2002, Collins broke into a home on the 3600 block of Wyoming in St. Louis, while its female occupant, a stranger to Collins, was sleeping. Collins then allegedly bound the victim at gunpoint, raped her, and robbed the home. The victim was treated at St. Mary's Hospital, and evidence from her person and her clothing were later matched with a DNA sample taken from Collins in a separate case. Collins was a student at Washington University at the time of the alleged incident. He was enrolled in University College from the spring of 2001 through the spring of 2002. According to Robert Wiltenberg, Dean of University College, Collins was suspended in the spring of 2002 for academic reasons. In addition to pursuing his undergraduate degree in psychology, Collins played both baseball and football for the Bears. It was on the football field for the Bears that he earned his distinction. As a tailback for the Bears during the 2001 season, Collins rushed for 1,015 yards, breaking the rookie rushing record, and scored 7 touchdowns. As a result, he was named the University Athletic Association Offensive Player of the Year. Off the field, Collins was held as an example for all to follow. While attending college as a non-traditional age student, a then 27-year-old Collins attended night classes, worked as an apprentice plumber with his uncle, I.W. Collins, and excelled on the playing field in the evenings. People say you can't get a Washington University degree. You can't work full-time, play football, and go to school, say head football coach Larry Cambone in the December 2001 University Record article. All of us have that drive inside, but most of us don't get there. Bobby Collins is one of a few, and I think that really speaks to his maturity and perseverance. Let me read. Okay, I know it sounds like I am being repetitive, but hey, you learn through repetition, right, y'all? So let's finish this article. Collins, however, had a tainted past. Collins pleaded guilty to 1 felony count of possession with the intent to distribute cocaine and 1 count of armed criminal action in February of 1994. According to court records from the U.S. District Court in Denver, Collins was sentenced to 39 months in jail and 4 years probation. Collins' sentence was half of what is suggested by the federal sentencing guidelines. Upon motion of the government, as a result of the defendant's substantial assistance. Earlier records, also from the U.S. District Court in Denver, showed that this relationship dated back to 1992 when Collins sold crack to an undercover agent from the FBI. In January of 1993, Collins became a cooperating witness or informant for the FBI. More recently, Collins was arrested by the St. Louis Metropolitan Police on 2 counts of armed criminal action and 2 counts on armed robbery stemming from a July 2002 robbery. Police charged that Collins robbed 2 strangers, a man and a woman, at gunpoint. Collins was arrested and booked on these charges, but did not stand trial because he skipped bond. Collins appeared in the 25th Division of the 22nd Circuit Court on Monday, August 25th, to be arraigned on the latest charges stemming from the March 2002 incident. He is charged with 1 count of burglary, 10 counts of armed criminal action, 1 count of robbery, 4 counts of forcible sodomy, 1 count of attempted forcible sodomy, 2 counts of forcible rape, 1 count of kidnapping, and 1 misdemeanor count of 3rd-degree assault. At Collins' August 25th appearance, the arraignment was postponed until October 7th to allow Collins more time to secure or acquire a private lawyer. No bond is allowed in this case. Wow. Okay. Wow. This guy must have gave up some powerful people to get this type of protection from the government at one point. And it made me think about the Black Messiah movie. Well, y'all know at the opening, William O'Neill character, he got in trouble for posing as a police officer. He robbing, carjacking or stealing people's cars and stuff. And he made that deal. So Collins made a deal with the devil, which is the government. And he crossed the devil, and this is what he gets. He gets hell on earth for 500 something years. And he won't be able to do all that time. Lucky if he make it to 50 or 100. But we'll see. Because this is kind of strange, because the government had an axe to grind with old Bobby Collins, because he double crossed him, I guess. But that's the nature of the business. He double crossed the people he dealt with. They double crossed. He double crossed them. And, it's just, I want y'all to think about the stuff I just said. Just share with you all. This is very troubling, but this is not nothing new. Like I said, you can go back to William O'Neill with Fred Hampton. He ended up becoming Fred Hampton's chief bodyguard. And he's an informant for the FBI. He gave up the floor plans for Fred Hampton's West Side apartment that led to him and Mark Clark's death back on December 4th, 1969, state-sponsored assassination, courtesy of the FBI. So this dude was an FBI informant and cooperating witness. I'm sure he got some bad characters off the street, but I guess old habits die hard if all what they said in this article is true about what he did. My issue, too, is like the judge, Margaret Neal. Now, she was judge. She was a judge from 93 to 2016. So she's retired. But at that time, it was about, I guess, 2005. And she said that was the most heinous crime she ever heard of on her 12 years in the bench. Lady, you in St. Louis. Right across the river is East St. Louis. I heard all types of stuff. I heard folks getting burnt up in garbage cans, shot up in cars and getting burnt up. You mean this the worst thing you ever heard somebody did in that area? You are very sheltered, lady. Mind your business, lady. No, I mean, I'm just saying, but it's kind of like, is that really true? I mean, even all the crimes he did, he didn't kill anybody, though. So how is this the worst of the worst? Now, the rape is horrible. And matter of fact, Bobby filed for an appeal. So I'm going to read a little summary of the story. It's going to be a little bit more graphic, because I remember reading years ago a version of the story. Now, they said in one of the articles that he allegedly raped the victim on March 17th for like 30 to 90 minutes. It was one article. I don't know if it was a student newspaper, because they be scrubbing the internet. I don't know if the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, they be scrubbing the internet. But it accused him of taking a break between raping and sodomizing his victim and fixing a sandwich. They said he fixed a sandwich in between raping the lady and went back to raping her. Whistle while you twerk. I'm saying, come on, man. Maybe it's true. I mean, he's in jail. He's guilty. He's in prison. He got this long criminal past track record, this rap sheet that follows him all around. And this would be an amazing movie. This should be on Netflix or something. It could be a docudrama series. This could be a movie. Fact is always stranger than fiction. This is why this story got to be talked about. And like I said, you can hardly find any information on this story online. And I went to school with this man. And I still can't believe he did. This been with me ever since I found out, since 2005. This been on my mind for years. And I always make it a point to share this story with young people when I talk to them, when I go to schools, or even when I do my show from time, I talk about Bobby. And this is Bobby Collins Jr. This is the guy I be talking about from time to time. But let me read the graphic details in his appeal about what he allegedly done on March 17th, 2002. Like I said, I don't do it for likes. I've been, people don't understand. I be looking at people, I say, how do they go live every day? Like, how you got the energy to get on these platforms and just talk all day? I don't even I got energy, but I just got the world on my shoulders, man. I just feel excuse me. I feel you feeling burdened by all this stuff, all this darkness. People killing themselves, man. I believe that they doing something to us to make us want to kill ourselves. And I can't prove it, but I feel like, I talk to people that work in funeral homes, like, man, we getting like a lot of suicides lately, Ron. I mean, it got to be something going on. Y'all need to be vigilant. But let me read the State versus Collins, his appeal. I found his appeal thing. This is from February. It was decided February 21st, 2006. And you can see that he lost the appeal. He's still in prison for about 500 plus more years. Let me read. It said the so-called factual background and proceedings below. This is part of the appeal decision, but I'm reading this part because it tells the story. It's very graphic, y'all, and it is what it is. But it's graphic. Let me see. And thank y'all for rocking with me. Like I said, I want to get this in 2 hours. I don't want to be here all night, but I just feel like this the universe. So God put on my mind and share this story. I had a friend who's a long time listener to the show said, Ron, what's the point of sharing this story? I think it's counterproductive. I said, it's not counterproductive. This story needs to be out there and people need to talk about this because, you got Carolyn Bryant that accused Emmett Till of doing bad things to her. And he lost his life. And Carolyn Bryant has never been made to pay for that. She allegedly confessed to historians several years ago. Timothy Tyson, who works at Duke, who wrote a book about Emmett Till, he said he talked to Carolyn Bryant and she had remorse about what happened to Emmett Till back in 55. And, Moses Wright, Emmett's great uncle, testified that it was a woman's voice that identified Emmett. Who best to identify Emmett than Carolyn Bryant, the woman who allegedly accused Emmett of improper conduct? So she was there that night when he was kidnapped and eventually murdered. She was there because she identified him for her husband and his collaborators, including his half brother J.W. Malum. So people talk about Cosby. He's been railroaded, speculation, because these women never made the case that he actually raped them. And Andrea Constant's own case wasn't strong enough to put him in prison, but hearsay was strong enough to put Cosby in prison. But this has been happening to black men since the founding of this dang republic. Always guilty, never innocent, unless it's on the technicality. And then we still ain't innocent, But here he is that Congress told we're going to give Emmett Till mama, who been dead since 2003. She died on January 6, 2003. Emmett been dead since August of 55. They talking about getting them congressional gold medals. No, this arrest Carolyn Bryant and make sure she spend the rest of her life in prison, die in disgrace. That's the best thing to do for Emmett's family at this point, because it's ridiculous. You make all these movies and TV shows about it. We know she's guilty and it's all ever. This is a slam dunk case, but they won't do the right thing. Because don't you ever think about how they got rid of the Black Panthers, but the Ku Klux Klan is still around? These white nationalist groups are still around, but the Black Panther Party, I'm talking about the original intent of black, is all gone. I ain't talking about the new Black Panthers. I ain't got no problem with them. I'm saying a lot of these kids, a lot of talk like these gun clubs. I ain't talking about y'all. I'm talking about they get rid of Fred Hampton, but they let Jeff Fort. Jeff Fort was functional illiterate. They let Jeff Fort and Larry Hoover stay around, but Fred Hampton, who tried to politicize the gangs, he got to go. But Mayor Daley is a gang leader. He could be mayor of Chicago. But Fred Hampton can't even be on the streets feeding kids and providing testing for sickle cell. We gotta let him out of here at 21. But they let Mayor Daley, be Gangster Daley, and let his son be mayor. But Fred Hampton, you gotta kill them and their legacies. You gotta make sure you neutralize their legacy. They put Fred Hampton Jr. in jail for a minute, trying to kill him. So now they kill legacies. They legacy killers, man. And yet y'all look for these folks who are the legacy killers to be your guardians to help you get justice. Y'all crazy. Y'all, we insane. Stockholm syndrome, insane in the membrane. But this is where we at. But let me read the so-called factual background and proceedings below. This is a summary by the state of what happened the night of March 17th, 2002. I hope y'all can still hear me. They like to play games with my Wi-Fi. Oh my God. Viewed in the light most favorable to the judgment, the evidence shows the following. On March 17th, 2002, defendant broke into KK's, parentheses, victim, home while she was sleeping. She was sleeping on her stomach when she felt something heavy, like her cat jump on her. Then she heard the door outside her bedroom that led to the basement open and close. When she looked up from her bed, she saw a defendant standing in the doorway. Defendant turned off the light and jumped on top of victim. He put a gun to her head and told her to shut up or he would kill her. She fought, but defendant grabbed her head and put the gun down her throat. Once again, he told her to shut up or he would kill her. This time she complied. When defendant told victim that he was going to have sex with her, she told him that she was on her period. So defendant made her perform oral sex on him. As she did, defendant, who was wearing latex gloves, stuck his finger in her pants to see if she was actually on her period. When he discerned that she was not on her period, defendant attempted to penetrate victim's vagina with his penis, but he penetrated her anally instead. She told defendant to stop and that she would remove her pants so that he could penetrate her vagina. Defendant then inserted his penis in her vagina and penetrated her anus with his finger. Victim, fearing that she would get pregnant or contract a sexual transmitted disease, asked defendant to wear a condom from her nightstand drawer, but he refused. At various times during the attack, defendant threatened to kill victim if she gave him anything, looked at him, or did not shut up. He also hit her on the head with the gun multiple times. After the first rape, defendant bound victim's legs and arms with a towel and bed sheets, tying her or lying her face down on the bed. When asked her where her money and jewelry were, he asked her where her money and jewelry were, excuse me. After she answered him, he left the room to obtain the items she mentioned. When he returned, defendant noticed that she had loosened some of her buns, so he asked her where he could get some tape. Defendant then bound victim's hands and feet with tape and covered her head with blankets and pillows. He turned on the bedroom lights and went through her belongings, looking for jewelry. He searched her apartment and returned to the bedroom at various times to have vaginal and oral sex with victim. At one point, she moved her head to breathe easier. She saw defendant in the reflection of a mirror standing behind her. She watched defendant stick the barrel of his gun into her anus, but then look away because she was afraid. Defendant then forced her to perform oral sex again. Victim heard defendant pack her laptop computer. As defendant continued to gather victim's belongings, she started getting out of the tape. When defendant discovered this, he used more tape to bind her. Defendant then raped her again. This time he ejaculated. Defendant left victim's apartment with various pieces of her personal property. After victim broke out of her bonds, she called 911. In the meantime, victim wiped herself on the bed sheets, preserving seminal fluid that linked defendant to the crime. When police officer John Despain arrived at victim's home, he found the glass on front door of victim's apartment broken and the door slightly ajar. Officer Mark Karpinski, a crime technician, testified that he seized the broken glass from the front door and attempted to lift fingerprints from the door. However, he found no fingerprints because the defendant was wearing gloves when he broke into the apartment. Officer Despain transported victim to the hospital where a sexual assault kit was performed. The DNA from the various samples linked defendant to the crime. The victim later viewed a photographic lineup and stated that the defendant looked familiar. The state charged defendant with count 1 of burglary in the first degree, counts 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and 20 of ACA, count 3 of robbery in the first degree, counts 5, 7, 15, and 19 of forcible sodomy, count 9 of attempted forcible sodomy, counts 11 and 17 of forcible rape, count 13 of kidnapping, and count 21 of assault in the third degree. That's a lot of counts, man. It's like Count Chocula. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On December 9th, 2004, the jury found defendant guilty of all counts except count 21 of assault in the first degree. On January 28th, 2005, the trial court orally sentenced defendant to 15 years imprisonment on counts 1, 2, 13, and 14, and 30 years imprisonment for each of the remaining 16 counts 3 through 12 and counts 15 through 20. At the end, the court announced that all of these sentences shall be consecutive with each other for a total of 480 years. On February 2nd, 2005, defendant timely filed his notice of appeal. You remember that scene in Malcolm X? Y'all know I'm talking about that scene in Malcolm X. That scene in Malcolm X where Malcolm and Shorty was sentenced by the judge, and it said on each count 5 to 10 years, and Shorty passed out because the judge said concurrently, but concurrently mean they all get served, like all the counts will be served at the same time. So you will be serving 5 plus 10 years plus 5, 10 years. But what they did to Bobby was consecutively. So they added all those counts, then 30 years for the other counts. But they even got their math wrong because they said 480. The paperwork said 510. They end up saying 540, but now it's 525. So I guess he got some things knocked out after filing more appeals, I guess. But this is like his first appeal. And the decision was, hey, you guilty, dude. We gonna keep you in here. So that's what they did, and that's what they're doing. Now, with that said, like I said about the truck driver, I'm not. Look, when you read what he's accused of doing, what he was found guilty of doing, it's despicable. It's like, Bobby, if you wearing gloves, why won't you wear a condom to rape the girl? The girl even wants you to wear the condom, but you didn't want to wear a condom. You wear gloves, not have fingerprints, but you leave your semen inside of her for DNA evidence. Like, what are you thinking, dude? What's this disconnect? Because quite possibly he could have got away with it. Quite possibly, if he didn't leave no DNA. And then allegedly that DNA is tied to a similar case in Denver of an alleged home invasion and rape. So they got his DNA, fingerprints, everything. And he already was a criminal informant for the FBI. So you got a long rap sheet, and then you working for the government as a snitch. That's a street term, snitch, right? A rat, but everybody's snitching. That's another. I do a show about how everybody be snitching. One man snitches, another man's freedom fighter, or another person's informant. I don't know, but yeah, man, that's it's hard. When you read the stuff, it's hard to feel sorry for Bobby, man. It's hard. I can see why it'd be hard for a lot of people to have compassion, but I'm saying this though. There are people that have killed people that have done way less time than Bobby. I'm not saying that he should get out tomorrow, but maybe one day, if they actually do really believe in rehabilitating people, they don't believe in this society, like to throw away people. If you get a certain age, they want to throw you away. If you a certain color or skin tone, they think that you're dispendable. You really warehousing people, man. This system is a fraudulent system because it does not care about seeing people reach their full potential. Now, Bobby, I don't know what happened to him in those 3 years. He did do Fed time. Maybe he got traumatized by that experience and it changed him. But I'm not excusing his latter actions because he was a grown man. He got to be some accountability for what he did. But at the same time, though, it's this thing about football, right? He was a star athlete. Could he be suffering from CTE? No, Brother Ron, you just trying to get him out. No. Could he be suffering from CTE? I think that's valid. Could he be suffering from CTE? Could Bobby be a victim of too many concussions or hits to the head? Because I don't know how long he played football. I mean, he was an older guy playing college football, Division III, but he still was an athlete. So I don't know if that played a part. And I'm not trying to make excuses, because the reason why I bring that up, y'all remember Darren Sharper, the Pro Bowl, Super Bowl winning Darren Sharper, one of the greatest defensive players of all time in NFL history. Y'all know where he at right now, right? Y'all, if you're a football fan, you should know about Darren Sharper. No, Darren Sharper is actually really, if you look at his career, he's a Hall of Famer. But people are saying, should they put a convicted rapist in the Hall of Fame? Darren Sharper is also a convicted rapist, doing almost 20 years in prison right now for raping women, 9 to up to, some people say 16 women across 4 states. He's accused, or he was convicted of raping 9 women at least in 4 states. You know, he was like what y'all think Cosby did to the women. He actually was accused of drugging and raping the women, and he was convicted of it. He had 2 helpers. One dude was a sheriff deputy down in Louisiana. I want to talk about Darren Sharper. And so, do you think what Bobby did, was it fair that he get 500 some years, and Darren Sharper's only getting, he probably gonna do half of that 20 years? You understand? He already did about 2016. So what? He did about 6 years. He about in his 6th year. So I mean, that's why I had to do this show tonight, because maybe Darren Sharper is a victim of CTE. You know, Julian Sayal tried to kill himself a couple of times, and he finally succeeded. And he donated his brain to study for the effects of concussions on the brain. And really, football is an inhumane sport. It's a brute sport. And like, for people to act like we cheering people destroying their health. We're cheering folks destroying. Like, you look at on Sunday, right? People talking about Joe Burrow as Joe Cool, like he's a new Tom Brady, Joe Montana. But look how many times he was sacked. This man got sacked 51 times during the regular season. He got sacked about 19 times during the playoffs. He's a young man. Yeah, he's 25, but y'all forget that them bodies break down. They might have all the muscles they could run right now, but a lot of times when them guys retire, by the time they in their 40s and 50s, they could barely walk. Knees, cartilage all gone, ACL all messed up, fingers all mangled. Y'all, it's fun watching them when they're young and running around. Look at Odell Beckham Jr. He may not be able to play football again. Not at the level he used to play, not at the elite level. But on Joe Burrow, you think he's gonna be able to take about 80 or 70 something sacks a year for about 10 years? You think he's gonna last getting hit like that? Every time you tackle somebody, it's like getting in a car accident. But this is people entertainment. That's why I don't have a problem with them players getting paid a lot of money, because they're not getting paid enough, to be honest with you. You look at the owner of the Rams. This man is worth almost $11 billion. He's married to one of Sam Walton's, the founder of Walmart. He married to one of his daughters. The daughter by herself is almost worth $9 billion. This dude, her husband, this Kroenke guy, whatever his name, Kroenke, whatever, Steve Kroenke, whatever, Kroenke, whatever, is worth about almost $11 billion. His wife is worth almost $9 billion. Y'all talking about some Jay-Z, Beyonce, please. This is wealth. This man's team, the football team, St. Louis Rams, is worth almost $5 billion. Got a brand new $5.5 billion stadium, privately financed, built in Los Angeles. Not that far where they killed Nipsey Hussle for the land grab. But, this is what we're dealing with. Who is your God? Who's your God? Show enough. Making money, and he players are deteriorated by the time after they get through playing football. A lot of them can't recall they ever played football. Man, I had the pleasure of meeting the great Dr. Curtis McClinton. He played in the first Super Bowl for the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a fullback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Played in the first Super Bowl, scored the first touchdown for the AFC side, for the American Football League, the American Football Company. He scored the first touchdown in Super Bowl history for the AFC. And I had visited him in Kansas City a couple of times. I had a crush on his daughter. She used to work at WashU. She's happily married with children now, but I used to have a thing for her, boy. I used to have a thing for her. And she connected me with her father. So when I visit Kansas City, I would a lot of times would stop by his place or connect with him and his wife, and just catch up with him and talk about his life. I interviewed him a couple of times on my We All Be platform. I could access his playlist. Talking about his amazing life story. Like he's in that famous picture. He's one of the athletes standing up behind Muhammad Ali and all, like Bill Russell and them or Jim Brown them sitting down. He's behind them stand up. He's in that part of that famous picture of all the black athletes supporting Muhammad Ali. He actually worked with Jim Brown on his economic agenda. He was a part of Jim Brown's economic organization back in the day to try to empower the black community through economics. So he was and also worked in the White House. He had connections to the White House back in the day. I think the Reagan Bush White House. He's a Republican, I believe, but hey, I don't have a problem with that. But I think he has some effects of brain concussion and all that CTE stuff, because sometimes he'll repeat himself. And also the effects of just playing football, his knees are gone, because like, I remember when we went to his man cave, he had to slide himself down the steps because his knees are gone. I mean, he still could walk and stuff like that, but them knees, man. But I remember he took me to Gates Barbecue, this very popular spot in St. Louis called Gates Barbecue. And him and his wife, the first time I met him, this was back in 2013. First time I met him, and he's like, he was football royalty, man, because all of a sudden all these former NFL players came out of nowhere, started like he was the Godfather, like they was kissing his ring or something. Like they all came to pay their respect. He was a former football player. They just came out of nowhere, like it was like scripted or something. But anyway, yeah, I think about that. Could Bobby be dealing with some type of CTE issue? Too many hits in the head. That's why he did the things that got him in jail or prison for 500 something years. I don't know, but let's talk about Darren Sharper, because this guy is a potential Hall of Fame. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I know people have a problem. It's not the morality Hall of Fame, it's the football Hall of Fame. So you got all type of degenerates in these Hall of Fames. You got all type of sociopaths and stuff in the so-called Hall of Fames. Now, if this was the morality Hall of Fame, Darren Sharper has no business being in there. But since he was like an amazing football player, all decades team football player, like people talk about Matthew Stafford, the quarterback for the Rams, don't have enough accolades to be considered a Hall of Famer. I don't know, because Matthew Stafford, to me, if he can win one more Super Bowl, I think he'd be all right, because you can't help that he played for the Detroit Lions for most of his career. I mean, but to me, I look at Matthew Stafford, people talking about he throw a lot of touchdowns and interceptions. He's like a hybrid of Brett Favre and Kurt Warner. He's a real gunslinger. He's what people thought Tony Romo was. Tony Romo wasn't really. Tony Romo, I get hit a little bit. He has some bravado to him, but Matthew Stafford is like, to me, he's a hybrid between Brett Favre and Kurt Warner, and these both are Hall of Fame quarterbacks. So I think but I mean, who knows? I don't really care. Because Barry Bonds not even in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's a joke. So the Hall of Fame don't mean nothing no more. Not to me. But let me thank y'all for rocking with me. But like I said, I'm gonna keep this on the 2 hours. I'll keep on 2 hours. But let me know. I found a way to contact Bobby. Should I reach out to Bobby and get his point of view? Let me know in the chat. I haven't read the chat room. I'm trying to keep on. Of course, thanks to my moderators and people who are chiming in. I'm gonna check out the chats after the show. But thanks to anybody who donated or will donate because of the information I've been providing, especially on this show. I appreciate it. We love you madly. But I'm gonna just keep focused right now. I'm gonna be rolling because I want to get this done under 2 hours. But let's talk about Darren Sharper. And I wish more black media, so-called new black media, I wish we'd take our stuff what we do more seriously about this instead of doing the same old gossipy stuff. I'm tired of talking about, Kanye West is smart. Don't really want to talk about Kanye West all day. Be honest with you, I don't really listen to a lot of his new stuff, like his older stuff, the stuff that I came up through my 20s with. I prefer more than this other stuff, but he's still brilliant. I wish him all the best, But celebrities ain't gonna save us, man. But we need to talk about this. This is very important. This is Darren Sharper. Why? And that's the thing. Like, rape is not about sex. A lot of times, rape is a power dynamic. Because Darren Sharper is not a bad looking guy, right? He's very successful, got money, got status. gifted athlete. Why would he want to rape women? Women will consent to him, probably, right? They will just give it up. But some people like the power. They like to control people. It's a false illusion of control, because rape is not about sex gratification. It's about power. It's about dominating somebody else. It's not about sexual gratification. So let's talk about Darren Sharper. Let's talk about him. Darren Sharper, born November 3rd, 1975, is a former American football safety who played in the National Football League for 14 seasons. He played college football at William and Mary and was selected in the second round of the 1997 NFL draft by the Green Bay Packers, where he spent 8 seasons. Sharper played his next 4 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, while his final 2 seasons were as a member of the New Orleans Saints. Recognized as one of the league's top defensive backs during his career, Sharper was a 5-time Pro Bowl selection and a 2-time first-team All-Pro, along with being named to the second team of the 2000s All-Decade team. He ranks 6th in interceptions and is tied with Charles Woodson and Rod Woodson for the most defensive touchdowns. Charles Woodson and Rod Woodson are both Hall of Famers. So he's elite. He's an elite defender, an elite athlete. And somebody said, don't say rape, say grape. It might be flagged. Oh, well, I have a backup. I ain't worried about it too much. That's why we got to find a way to get our own platform. Following Sharper's 2010 retirement, allegations surfaced that he drugged and raped several women across various states, leading to him being charged in 2014. Sharper pled guilty to the rape, I'm gonna just say rape, and drug-related charges, and was sentenced to in 2016 to 20 years in prison. So he pled guilty. Now, y'all want to say Cosby guilty, but this dude actually pled guilty. He didn't try to fight it. He pled guilty to the rape and drug-related charges and was sentenced to in 2016 to 20 years in prison. As a result of his guilty plea, he was removed from the William and Mary Athletics Hall of Fame, while debate has loomed over whether his Pro Football Hall of Fame eligibility should be disqualified. I mean, if he was a great player, what they had to do with him being a great rapist? I mean, we celebrate Columbus Day, but that's another. I'm not going to take this longer than 2 hours. Let me see him get down to the accusations. He was Super Bowl champion. He was with the Saints where they beat the Indianapolis Colts with Peyton Manning. Drew Brees was the quarterback for the Saints, and I'm just trying to get down to that rape stuff. That stuff is interesting. I'm saying, think about it. The dude I know, he got 500 years. Not saying that he's better or worse than Sharper, but it looks like, put this in comparison. Oh my God. Let me just read some of this stuff. I don't think he should be, if he's deserved to be in the Hall of Fame for his football accomplishments, he should be put in the Hall of Fame. You shouldn't judge somebody by, their personal demons. If it has nothing to do with the game of football, put him in the Football Hall of Fame. He was an amazing winner and a competitor, put him in the Hall of Fame. Let me see. And he was like I said, he had victims in 4 states. So he had trials for victims in 4 states. This stuff is disturbing when you read it. I'm trying to get through this. He was accused of taking advantage of women in Louisiana, Nevada, California, and Arizona. So he was on a rampage, allegedly. Let me see. Let me read some of this stuff. Allegations. On March 18th, 2011, 2 women filed a criminal complaint against Sharper with the Miami Beach Police Department, alleging they were possibly sexually assaulted after passing out at Sharper's condo on his couch and waking up to find their underwear missing. The women were in Miami for spring break and were students from the University of Georgia. On March 17, 2011, the women had been brought to Sharper's condo by a mutual friend, nightclub promoter Oscar Payano, and had passed out on Sharper's couch. One of the women claimed she woke up to a man attempting to place his penis in her mouth, but pushed the man away. She alleged that when she woke up again, a man was lifting her dress. She immediately woke her friend and told Payano about the incident. Both women discovered their underwear was missing and were taken to the hospital by Payano, where they underwent rape examination. On March 23rd, 2011, Miami Beach Police Department closed the investigation 5 days after the incident. The Miami Beach Police Department's records show no evidence the detective in charge of the case sent the rape kits for a detailed examination, had spoken to Darren Sharper, or had visited Sharper's condo where the alleged assault had taken place. On February 2nd, 2013, Sharper allegedly helped drug a woman who was working as a model at a pre-Super Bowl party in New Orleans and was consequently raped by Sharper's friend, Brandon Liciardo. I don't know. Call him Brandon A.L. On August 31st, 2013, Sharper allegedly raped a woman in New Orleans. On September 23rd, 2013, Sharper allegedly drugged 2 women in New Orleans and raped them with his accomplice, Eric Nunez. One of the victims filed a report with the New Orleans Police Department. Sharper and his friend, Eric Nunez, raped the women. On October 30th, 2013, Sharper allegedly drugged 2 women and raped one of the women in Los Angeles after meeting them in a West Hollywood nightclub and bringing them back to his hotel room. On November 7, 2013, the victim filed a police report with Los Angeles Police Department. On November 20th, 2013, Sharper allegedly met 3 female Arizona State University students in Tempe, Arizona, and raped 2 of them after drugging them. Both women immediately underwent assault examination within 12 hours of the assault and filed a police report with the Tempe Police Department. On January 14, 2014, Sharper allegedly met 2 women in West Hollywood nightclubs and proceeded to take them to his hotel room, drugged them, and raped one of them. Both victims reported the incident to the Los Angeles Police Department and underwent rape examinations. On January 15, 2014, Sharper allegedly met 2 women and a man in a nightclub in Las Vegas and drugged all 3. He proceeded to take the women to his hotel room and sexually assaulted them both. Man, this man is very prolific and busy, right? Got a lot of free time doing all this stuff, alleged this. But one thing I noticed that the women, the alleged victims, immediately went to the police to get examined for rape, to report and also get examined, get a rape examination. See, that's the thing I got a problem with the Cosby stuff. Like, these women, not only did they go to the police right away, but they didn't go back to no Darren Sharper. They didn't go back to him. They stayed away. Even with Bobby's case, the girl made sure she saved the evidence and, the rape kit and stuff at the hospital. And I'm sure she don't want Bobby to come back, if that was Bobby, to do what he did, from the first time. Especially if he had the audacity to stop in the middle of raping her to fix a sandwich to eat. I don't, Bobby's in prison. Maybe we have him on to tell his side. I don't know. This is weird. But you also got to think about this too. I remember that, people talking about Ben Roethlisberger, right? Ben Roethlisberger, who just retired as quarterback. He was a quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers for a number of years. Definitely a Hall of Fame, a first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback, 2-time Super Bowl champion. But Ben Roethlisberger was accused of raping women, especially when he won Super Bowls. He was accused of raping women. 2 women were raped, and then they say he had a partner with him that was law enforcement, I believe, from Pennsylvania, like a state trooper that was with him on at least one of the alleged rapes. But they covered it up. The NFL, you don't hear nothing about Ben Roethlisberger being accused of raping women. That's why they probably never won another Super Bowl, because normally when he win a Super Bowl, that's when a rape accusation came out about Ben Roethlisberger or Rapisberger. Oh no, so I'm saying, like, this is a bunch of hypocrites, because evidently Sharper been doing this for a while. Probably when he was playing ball as well too. I don't know. I don't know these people, but I just think it's interesting. Maybe that CTE, maybe he having too many hits, concussions have affected his behavior. It's possible. It's possible. you know, but I'm saying this stuff is crazy. And he got all these police reports against him. How come the police didn't act fast just to, figure out what was going on, interview them, something? I didn't get no samples from him. Did they get any samples from Darren Sharp around this time? Hey, would you come in, get some blood samples or something? This is interesting. In prosecutions, California State. On January 17th, 2014, Shopper was arrested in Los Angeles on 2 separate counts of sexual assault. The alleged incidents were said to have happened in October 2013 and January 2014. On February 14, 2014, Shopper was officially charged with 2 counts of rape by use of drugs and 5 related felony counts. Shopper was released on $200,000 bond, which at the request of the prosecution was raised to $1 million. Shopper pleaded not guilty to the charges. Conditions of his bail require him not to frequent any drinking establishment, as well as not to be alone with any woman he had no relationship with prior to October 13, 2013, the date of his first alleged rape. Under these charges, Shopper faced up to 30 years in prison if convicted of all counts. Louisiana State and Federal. In January 2014, USA Today reported the New Orleans Police Department was investigating a sexual assault allegation against Sharper, which was filed on September 24th, 2013. Officials in the Orleans Parish, Louisiana, filed 2 charges of aggravated rape against Sharper and another 2 counts against Eric Nunez, 26, on February 27, 2014, related to the alleged September 2013 incident in New Orleans. Investigators said a second woman came forward with a complaint following an initial report shortly after the alleged rape. WDSU noted Louisiana law states that a person convicted of committing aggravated rape shall be punished by life imprisonment at hard labor without benefit of parole, probation, or suspension of sentence. Also on February 27, 2014, Shopper surrendered to the police in Los Angeles after an arrest warrant was issued by the authorities in Louisiana. On December 12, 2014, an Orleans Parish grand jury indicted Shopper on 2 counts of aggravated rape, stating that if convicted, he will face a mandatory life sentence. On the same day, a federal grand jury in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Louisiana returned an indictment for conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance, 1 count, and distribution of a controlled substance, 2 counts. Okay, Arizona State. I mean, this guy had 4 states. Now, Bobby was accused of some shenanigans that was similar to the home invasion and rape in Denver. But Darren Sharper got a lot of energy after retirement. I mean, this guy just, wow. Okay, Arizona State. On March 12, 2014, Sharper was charged with sexual assault in Arizona. Under Arizona state law, a person commits sexual assault by knowingly engaging in sexual intercourse or oral sexual contact with another person without that person's consent. No consent was given if the victim was incapable of consenting by reason of drugs, alcohol, sleep, or similar impairment, and such impairment was known or should have been known to the defendant. Nevada State. On March 20th, 2015, Sharper was charged with 2 sexual assaults in Las Vegas. The purported crimes took place in January 2014 and involved 2 women. Nevada state legislation provides that a person subjecting another person to sexual penetration against that person's will or under conditions in which the perpetrator knows or should know that the victim is mentally or physically incapable of resisting or understanding the nature of the perpetrator's conduct is guilty of sexual assault. The notion of sexual penetration includes sexual intercourse in its ordinary meaning. Man, this is crazy. How many years? You think he should get more than 30 years of doing all the stuff that they said they was able to prove that he did? This is ridiculous. But it said guilty pleas and sentencing. California and Arizona. Later on March 20th, Sharper's lawyer said that Sharper had reached a plea agreement to resolve all the charges against him. He appeared in court in Los Angeles on March 23rd to enter guilty pleas to sexual assault in Arizona by video conferencing and no contest in California to raping 2 women he knocked out with a potent sedative mixed with alcohol. The Arizona judge sentenced him immediately to 9 years in prison with no chance for early release. On November 29, 2016, Sharper was sentenced to 20 years in prison by Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Michael Pastor. Sharper's plea deal allows serving half the time minus time already served. As a nonviolent criminal, Sharper might also be eligible for parole since raping an intoxicated person is a nonviolent crime in the state of California. You see what it said? Raping an intoxicated person is a nonviolent crime in the state of California. Only in California. Okay. Nevada. On March 24th, 2015, Sharper pleaded guilty to a single count of attempted sexual assault on 2 women in Las Vegas. He agreed to serve 3 to 8 years for this crime. He was formally sentenced on October 27, 2016. But he did about 6 years already, just about. On May 29, 2015, it's Louisiana federal. On May 29, 2015, Sharper pleaded guilty in federal court to conspiracy to distribute alprazolam, diazepam, and zolpidem. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it is what it is. With intent to commit rape and 2 counts of distributing these substances with intent to commit rape. Wow. He accepted a 9-year sentence and a plea deal for all charges against him. However, on February 18, 2016, U.S. District Judge Jane Treach Malazzo, I guess Trique? It's Trique. I don't know. Malazzo rejected the deal, saying this court cannot accept this plea agreement, and noted that the federal pre-sentence report called for a range of 15 to 20 years. On March 22nd, 2016, Judge Trick Malazzo approved a new deal under which the proposed length of imprisonment fits the above range. On August 18, 2016, Sharper was sentenced to 220 months, that's 18 years and 4 months of incarceration, followed by 3 years of supervised release and a $20,000 fine. The following week, he was sentenced by Louisiana state judge to 20 years in prison, stemming from 3 counts of rape. All imprisonments will run concurrently, so they won't be adding up to no 100+ years. So they're saying that all the imprisonments, if you were sentenced to 3 to 8 years in one, or the 20 years in the other, they all run at the same time. So once out of prison, Sharper must register as a sex offender and comply with a sex treatment condition as part of the 3-year supervision program. Court records list the total of 9 victims involved nationwide, but according to the judge, there may be as many as 16. She was only 16. Only 16. Okay. So yeah, his co-defendants, right? Or accomplices. This dude, Brandon Liccardi. I don't know. I mean, I don't hold me on these names, y'all. These people have these little names. Like my mom's a teacher. She's talking about how it's hard to pronounce some of these names on her student list or roster. Those interesting names, but let's go with Brandon Liccardi of Monroe, Louisiana, and Eric Nunez of New Orleans pleaded guilty in connection with the alleged drug and rape plot. Liccardi is a former sheriff's deputy. Remember what I said? Well, Ben Roethlisberger was accused of raping one girl that allegedly was a police officer from the state of Pennsylvania present as his so-called bodyguard. I think it was a state trooper. He had a state trooper escort, but it's another story. So he said Liccardi is a former sheriff's deputy in the New Orleans suburb of St. Bernard Parish. That's the same parish that wouldn't let black folks come in after Katrina happened, right? They forced black folks to walk back across the bridge to New Orleans at gunpoint. He had been on the force since 2002, but resigned after charges were filed. I think that's the same parish. Y'all look it up. February 27, 2014, Nunez was arrested and charged in state court with 2 counts of aggravated rape purportedly taking place September 23, 2013, at Sharper's residence in New Orleans. Additionally, he was charged with obstruction of justice between September 23, 2013 and February 28, 2014. On December 12, 2014, Liccardi was indicted by a federal grand jury on 6 criminal counts, including tampering with a witness, 2 counts impeding an investigation, conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance, and distribution of a controlled substance, 2 counts. On February 6, 2015, Liccardi pleaded innocent to state charges against him. including aggravated rape on February 2nd, 2013, and 3 counts of human trafficking to facilitate sexual conduct. Additionally, he was charged with battery using a dangerous weapon. On July 24th, 2015, Nunez was federally charged with conspiracy to impede an investigation. On July 11, 2016, in exchange for a 10-year sentence, he pleaded guilty for the judge, Trick Malazzo, to conspiracy to distribute controlled substances without victims' knowledge and with the intent to commit a sexual battery, to which he entered 2 separate guilty pleas in the state court of Louisiana. Under Louisiana state law, sexual battery includes touching of the victim's private body parts while the victim is incapable of understanding the nature of the act, and this inability is or should have been known to the defendant. On July 15, 2016, Licardi pleaded guilty before the same judge to conspiracy to distribute controlled substances with the intent to commit crimes of violence, including rape. In state court, he pleaded guilty to 3 counts of human trafficking and 1 count of forcible rape and agreed to a 17-year prison sentence. On October 20th, 2016, both men were formally sentenced by the federal court. On October 27th, they were sentenced on Louisiana state charges. Criminal District Judge Karen Herman ordered that each defendant's prison term mirror and run concurrently with his federal sentence. So they're not giving these folks like football numbers. They're getting little low numbers. So unlike Bobby, which his stuff is consecutively, theirs are concurrently. So they'll get out in under 20 years, less than that actually. And you notice this white women are over these judgments. Like even in my former classmate's case, it was a white woman that said this is the most heinous crime, and then there's a white woman involved in sentencing these guys. I'm not saying that they innocent, but I'm saying this is like lynch law and all these phases. It really was white women that caused black folks to start getting lynched in large numbers after the Civil War. White women led the charge in lynching of black males. I'm not saying these guys are innocent. I'm saying America is a gangster rap album. American history is a gangster rap album. And so why was he able to get away? I mean, this man got off, really, you think about it. He didn't get, like Bobby was never a millionaire, from my understanding. He never was a multi-millionaire. He never played professional football, but this guy is a possible Hall of Fame football player with resources, Super Bowl winner. And he was able to prolong justice, keep justice delayed for so long involving his sexual assault situation. I think it's interesting. It says since February 27, 2014, Sharper's last day at liberty. I guess so. He's been in jail, in prison since 2014. The lingering question was how he managed to hurt at least 9 women over many months. He did this over months, y'all. And still over, y'all talking about Cosby. See, this stuff don't add up. These women ain't going back to Sharper to get raped some more. They went immediately to the police to get the rape kit stuff done. So he had a paper trail. Unlike the Cosby women that kept on coming back. Oh, he's assaulting me. He made me feel uncomfortable in the dressing room. He didn't touch me or nothing. He was behind my back doing after exercises. And I felt so uncomfortable. And I had a dressing room and they paid me well. And no, these women were actually assaulted. And he pled guilty to it. So the criminal justice official speculated that the answer may lie in the perpetrator's high social and financial status, affording him well-qualified lawyers prosecutors hesitated to confront. If his name was John Brown, he would have been in jail and he would have been hanging from the goddamn gallows. The official said, if a woman says he's the guy that raped me and you help corroborating evidence to show that they were together and she went to the hospital and she could identify him, that guy goes to jail. Another official elaborated that the DA's position and administration position was because this was a high profile case, we wanted to make sure we do this the right way. It was mainly because of the celebrityness. Over time, Sharper's actions became more and more sophisticated. He did not make self-incriminating statements. He traveled often. His criminal activity spanned 4 states, making it hard to detect. Prescription sedatives mixed with alcohol made the victims unconscious and unable to remember, undermining their credibility with the police. In July 2019, Shopper filed a motion to undo his 2016 plea deal, arguing that he was not adequately advised by his previous lawyers on the consequences of his guilty plea. However, the judge dismissed his motion, citing that Shopper had twice admitted in open court that he understood the terms of his plea agreement. So now he's trying to get out something that's too late. The noose is around his neck, but he's not going to do no 500 plus years in prison. He'll be out in less than 20 years. And might be in the Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame by then, because they shouldn't hold it against him. Because that's the case, y'all got to kick Lawrence Taylor out the Football Hall of Fame for all the shenanigans he got involved in over the years. And Lawrence Taylor, people talking about Aaron Donald, but Lawrence Taylor might have been the greatest defensive player in all time in football history. Lawrence Taylor retired Joe Theismann. If you had a Lawrence Taylor around, Tom Brady would not have been playing for 20-something years. That's all I got to say. But anyway, that's interesting. Like, so let's say Bobby's guilty of everything. He's guilty of all that. Should he be serving 500 plus years in prison? If I just read to you Darren Sharper and the stuff that they were able to find on him, they said it could have been a minute 16 women that he raped, and he did that in a short period of time. And he had some helpers. And he's getting, basically, in comparison to Bobby, he's getting a slap on the wrist. But the reason I decided to do this show was to put out more information about this case. I think it's important because, like I said, this has been with me since I found out what happened to him back in 2005. And it's like this. I will bring this up every now and then to people, especially young people, to be very vigilant of the people you hang around with and the choices that you make, because your choices have consequences. I believe that Bobby is a father, so his kids probably are grown by now. He might be a grandfather, but it's unfortunate that this man who had a lot of potential is basically wasting his prime in prison, and maybe for good reason. Maybe, I mean, like I said, he's not a saint, but do you think, like, that Judge Neal, was this really the most heinous crime that she ever heard of? I mean, I could think of like a lot. It's St. Louis, you know what I'm saying? East St. Louis, the history. This was horrendous. Don't get me wrong, rape is wrong. Rape, I don't condone no rape. I'm not an endorser of that stuff. But if you think about, it's so much stuff that people get away with. Joe Kennedy, the patriarch of the Kennedy clan, once said, it's only, I'm gonna paraphrase him, it's only a crime if you get caught. You know how many criminals literally get away with murder? Most murders go unsolved. Most crimes go unsolved. But, with Bobby, I think what happened, he made a deal with the devil. He had to pay interest. When he became property of the federal government by being an informant, and he crossed them like he crossed them by getting back in trouble, they threw the book at him. Said, we got what we need to get. We got our high targets, and, he helped us put them away. So we rewarded him. But this fool got sloppy. Because I still don't understand, were you careful enough to wear latex gloves, but you don't wear no condom? And not even wear cover his identity, because she could identify him in the photo lineup. And I'm not saying that I want him to get away with it. No, I'm not saying it at all, but I'm saying he could not be in his right mind. So maybe he was a victim of CTE, getting hit too many times in the head while playing football. Or what happened to him in them 3 years in federal prison. Was he traumatized, abused? I mean, did it mess with his psyche, his masculinity? I'm just saying, I don't know, but I do know that Bobby is still around. And I actually found a way to get in touch with him. So I'm trying to figure out, should I get in touch with Bobby and hear his side of the story? Because I remember several years ago that the brother who was accused of killing Michael Jordan's father, he contacted me. Like, my life is interesting. It's like a movie, like everybody else, but my life is my life. He contacted me right after the LeBron James and then came back on the Golden State Warriors. This is back in the summer of 2016. Oh, not, I guess it wasn't, but like June of 2016, after LeBron and them came back for the historic comeback against the Warriors and won the championship. I kept on getting these phone calls from a penitentiary in North Carolina. I missed a couple of those phone calls, and finally I answered the phone call, accepted the phone call, and it was the brother on the other line saying, I'm so-and-so, I'm getting in touch with you because the CEO told me about the video you made with Dick Gregory talking about my innocence, like I didn't do this. And you know, people don't know that Dick Gregory was trying to get in touch with his lawyers back then to let them have some information about to help him exonerate him. Dick Gregory was trying to help exonerate the dude back in the 90s. Because people don't understand, in that county where Michael Jordan's dad was found or got killed in, the sheriff was notorious for being very corrupt. The sheriff department was very corrupt in that county. And it was like a high level of drug trafficking in that county because it was on I-95. So a lot of drugs would be coming up in from Miami all the way to the East Coast and back and forth through that county. They even did a documentary about Michael Jordan's father getting killed, about that young man and his possible innocence. Like he was accessory after the fact, like he helped get rid of the body, but he wasn't there when Michael Jordan's father got killed. Now he was joyriding in Michael Jordan's daddy's car, and you know they got video footage of him being a young fool, like he a young kid, like you know when you do what young kids do, you know you want to be rapping, you wearing Michael Jordan's daddy's rings, you know, I think championship ring that Michael Jordan gave his daddy and da 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 da. So it looks real bad, but I don't believe he killed Michael Jordan's father. He was an accessory to I believe his Indian friend actually had something to do with Michael Jordan's father get killed. And I believe Michael Jordan's father got killed doing a drug deal that went bad because the sheriff's son was a big time drug dealer down there. He ran a drug distribution. He had the protection of his father, who was a sheriff. I believe he was operating out of a hotel. And maybe Michael Jordan's father got killed at the hotel and decided to dump the body, get rid of the body and stuff like that. And the Native American was involved in that. The Lumbee, I get to call him Lumbee tribe. Let me see. Y'all get him. Lumbee Indian. Called Lumbee. Yeah, Lumbee Indian. His best friend was Lumbee. So he was helping his best friend. He had alibis. He was with his girlfriend and family at a home, and he came in, you know, the friend came and got him. So he had people that come vouch for him, but he had bad lawyers. The lawyers messed him up because the judge of the trial was trying to get him to get out. He was trying to get him to get a mistrial because the prosecutor knew they didn't have enough evidence to tie him to the crime of killing Michael Jordan's father. But he had bad counsel. The only reason why he's in prison right now is because of his lawyers sold him out. Because the judge could not, you know, the judge can't, oh man, if you say this, that means a mistrial, you know, and it probably more than likely ain't gonna try you again. He didn't get that advice from his counsel that he wanted, you know, because like the prosecutor knew that the case was lost in actuality, because based on they didn't have enough evidence to really tie him to killing Michael Jordan's father. And that stuff was weird because Michael Jordan daddy, they act like he was homeless. They cremated his body. The man had dental records they could have got. The man, you know, he had some expensive work done on his teeth. You know, even the car could have been easily traced back to Michael Jordan's father. I mean, it's just like, you know, they was covering up stuff, like how he actually died because they cremated his body. They claim they didn't have enough space at the morgue to hold his body. Come on, man. That's a cover up. But it was some type of technicality. See, it's a documentary that came out a couple years back. You can look at it. It talks about the black defendant, the convicted in Michael Jordan's case, and he had like an innocent project lawyer working on his case. She thought she was gonna get him out, and she actually ran for DA of North Carolina to try to just to win, so she could have the power to release him from prison. But I don't know the brother's his name off the top of my head, but he contacted me and I got him in touch with Dick Gregory. And Dick Gregory was happy that I got him in touch with the young man. But Dick Gregory knew something was up back in the 90s. If you read the mainstream press from the 90s around that case, a lot of them knew that stuff was suspect because they knew that the background of the sheriff was in question. They called in the background of the sheriff, the fact that he had a relative that was a drug dealer in the county A lot of high volume of drug trafficking took place in that county because it was like located on I-95 corridor. It was not a slam dunk case. Like I said, they could have declared that thing a mistrial or something like that, but it was like the judge wanted the young man to get off. I mean, I can't say that he wanted to advise the young man, but he couldn't because he was the judge, and it was up to the lawyers to know the law, or maybe they were paid off too to railroad this young man. But he had poor representation. He had poor legal representation. So I had talked to him on the phone a couple of times. Before he got on Vlog TV and all these other platforms, he was on We All Be TV back in the summer of 2016. And when I talked to him, it was like, this guy is highly intelligent. You could tell he's highly intelligent. He's articulate. He reading Dr. Amos' book, Blueprint, The Black Power. I think he said that was his favorite book to read. The guy has a brain. And I knew when I talked to him that first time that he was innocent of killing Michael Jordan's dad. I knew it. I felt it. But unfortunately, he's still in prison. But hopefully he'll get out soon. He's still like a young man, but he was young when he went in. But his friend set him up though. He called himself helping his best friend. His best friend sold him out. So you gotta be careful of the company to keep. The company that you keep. Choices have consequences. So with that said, I did this show tonight not to make light of Bobby's situation. It's unfortunate. Also, my thoughts are with the victim or his victims. May they get peace of mind. May they be healed from their trauma. And may brother Bobby find some healing from his trauma, some peace of mind. It seems like he's doing, I mean, I don't want to say pretty well in prison, but it's like he's keeping himself in good shape. So, I mean, but he's going to be there for a while. But who knows? And my thing is, are they really rehabilitating people or just warehousing people? Because Bobby, like I said, Bobby was very engaging. And I think he had a lot of potential. You know, telling what Bobby would have done if he had stayed the path that he was on. Because you think about, okay, the guy who runs the Jordan brand at Nike. So I'm just going to touch, it was a black dude, right, from Philly or something. He was in a gang when he was a teenager. He killed somebody back in the day. But now he's over Jordan's brand at Nike, right? Something like that. I'm tired of trying to scroll and looking, man. Y'all just do some research. I'm just putting this stuff out there. And y'all gonna say, well, Brother Ron, that's not the right story. Fine. But it was an executive at Nike who ran the Jordan brand. He was interviewed, I think last year. He talked about how he killed somebody when he was young, when he was in a gang. And he had a lot of remorse about that. I guess he had a book coming out, something like that. I know people would criticize him about, man, how can this dude, a killer, be a success story? But, you know, it's very biblical. You know what I'm saying? Everybody I believe people deserve second, third chances, fourth chances. You know, who am I to say that a person don't deserve another chance? But at the same time, I'm not going to be a fool either. If you type of dude, it's like, you know, you don't leave no chicken around a fox, man, a hen around a fox, and think that the fox ain't going to be a fox. You know, a snake going to be a snake, a fox going to be a fox, people going to be people. You know, my thing about people, it's not about I don't trust people. I trust people to be people. And also, another thing I'm learning, because I just read the Darren Sharper thing. Here's a guy, he's a football player, you know, multi-millionaire, and yeah, he going around raping women. He could easily he don't have to rape no women. I mean, he had money, the looks, career. I mean, why? Because it's not about what people think it is. People think just because people have money, that mean they happy. I went to Washington University in St. Louis. It's one of the wealthiest schools in the country, billions of dollars in endowment. You got trust fund, hedge fund babies and shit at that school. I remember it was a girl, one of my classmates. She took me home, took me back to campus from the art school. And she kept on looking at me before I got her car. She had like this high level BMW. And before I got out of her car, she asked me, Ron, how you keep it together? Because she like had a lot of emotional anxiety issues. She probably on all type of medication. She's just really like just shaky. And she would ask me, Ron, how you keep it together? I said, I don't know. I mean, I don't keep it together. What make you think I'm not crazy? I'm dysfunctional. I'm just like you. I got problems and stuff like everybody else. I just keep it moving. But I mean, I was dealing with folks, they had money, but all they wanted was a hug from their dad. They will tell you when they get drunk and high, man, Ron, I just want a hug from my dad. I'm not even, he's so disappointed in me. I said, he's like a good guy. Said, no, but he don't give me no time, man. He grown, he ain't grown. You a kid still, but young adults. But I'm saying you don't know what nobody going through. Nobody gets out of here alive. Everybody got to deal with adversity. I don't care how much money you got in the bank. I don't care what your last name is. You still got to deal with being human. You still have to have a human experience. And it is what it is. But thank you all for listening, Brother Ron. I'm going to call it a night. I know I didn't talk about everything I wanted to talk about. But I'll be freestyling this stuff. And I don't want to look at the chat room because, you get derailed, side comments and side things. I'll just look at y'all. Thank y'all. You donated. I appreciate it. We love you, madly. Thank the moderators. Thank anybody that's going to listen to this podcast in the future. Hopefully get you more interest in researching this case and also talking about stories that need to be talked about, that need to be amplified. And like I said, this was not, I didn't do this show to try to tear down Bobby Collins Jr. I did this show because I wanted more people to know about this and really think. I mean, like I said, it's people that have killed people under questionable circumstances that never served a day in prison. You got folks that did similar crimes like Bobby getting slapped on the wrist in comparison. Man, what's 20 years to 500 years? Okay, so think about that stuff. And should we be in the business of throwing away people? Should we throw away everybody? How many times you should forgive people? How many times should people be redeemed? These questions should ask. So, you like the words from Brother Herb? Please spread the word. Subscribe to We All Be TV. I know a lot of y'all been losing subscribers again. I'm in the negative. I can't help it, man. I got to go my own way, man. I just if I lose some people, I lose some people. It is what it is. I got to gain my peace of mind. I'm fighting for my life. I'm fighting for what I want my life to be for the next several years. So I can't worry about people not rocking with me because I'm not featuring certain type of celebrity people. And I can't. It's too many stories to tell. It's too much stuff to do that I want to do and work I want to get done before I exit the planet. So I'm just going to stay my route. So if you like the words from Brother Herb, please spread the word. Subscribe to We All Be TV. You can support the movement. Cash out $R2C2H2. That's Cash out $R2C2H2. You could Google Pay and PayPal your support, as well as Zelle your support at the following email address: r2c2h2@gmail.com. That's r2c2h2@gmail.com. You could Venmo your support at r2c2h2. You can also buy artivist art, r2c2h2.com. After this Holland Oates on Marion thing I had in January, I have a lot more energy to do artwork. I've been staying up at night sketching and drawing, working on some masterpieces, as well as reading. I could go back to reading books now. I'm reading there's a book y'all should read, Behold a Pale Horse by William Cooper. Read that book, Behold a Pale Horse, because the stuff that's going on right now, he prophesied that back in the 90s and cost him his life. And r2c2h2.com, get some artivist art. If you wear artivist art, go below the description box to the official R2C2H2 Teespring website. Buy you some art to wear, wearable art. And you see, really, I'm glad I feel so much better doing this. Is very therapeutic to do this show. But let me read the disclaimer. And people say, well, Ron, you might want to say the word grape or something. Look, man, if they're gonna flag, I mean, I'm doing something that's educational. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but the language is the language. I'm reading from documents and newspaper articles. I'm trying to, enlighten our people about our circumstances of people. We all we got. So we all be in it to win it. So disclaimer, the views expressed by hosts and guests on the We All Be TV platform are not the official views, opinions, beliefs, or perspectives of We All Be News or the We All Be Group Incorporated. We All Be News is an organization that thoroughly believes that thoroughly believes in supplementing the information narrative that is usually supplied by the corporate news entities with those viewpoints and expressions which may be marginalized or ignored for a plethora of reasons. We are about informing the general public on alternative perspectives as it relates to news and information, and letting the general public be the ultimate judge in deciding on how to use said information. Informed citizens are responsible citizens. Thank you for your support. Thank you all. Y'all have a great night, and we'll put it on the next show. I don't know. I want to do a show every day this week, but I don't know. I just feelings. Feelings. That's how I feel. But I want to serve my people. Y'all take care of yourselves. Keep on producing and pushing. And in the words of great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. One love. And know that the best is yet to come.